afternoon. I am thankful to Sri Krishna Institute of Public Administration, Government of Jharkhand Ranchi, for giving me this opportunity, and also the Center for Innovation of Public Systems to give me this opportunity to talk about to make a presentation on the electronic delivery of services, the AP experience. I welcome all the participants to the 1 hour session. And since I was told that some of the aspects relates to e-panchayats, I will be covering a brief some aspects of e-panchayats also in this presentation. So, this will be my flow of presentation. I introduce the concept of the common service centers on which the entire MeSeva is based, the CSC 1 in Andhra Pradesh, which we call MeSeva. MeSeva in the local Telugu language means at your service. The project Common Service Center 1 or the CSC version 1, which we call in Andhra Pradesh, I give a brief description of it. Then we migrated to several projects beyond MeSeva. That also I will give a brief introduction. Some of the issues with the Common Service Center 1, major issues like digital illiteracy and departmental inadequacy, that also we will be covering. And since I was asked to talk some aspects about e-panchayat, we have kick-started this in MeSeva, and some of the integration issues and where we stand in this, that will also be a focus of this discourse. Then based on the learnings in CSC 1, we also have started with a Common Service Center version 2, and I will briefly talking to you about CSC 2. Then what is the developmental impact of all the e-government initiatives? That will be another important part of this discussion. And time permitting, I will also take you through a typical government to customer G2C service, which is assessment of property tax. And finally, I conclude with a few remarks from what I have been able to understand about the MeSeva project. Before we proceed to discuss about the electronic delivery of services, I would like to give a brief a clarification regarding e-government and e-governance. Both in professional literature and in academic literature, we differentiate between e-government and e-governance, and often there is ambiguity in the usage of these concepts. So, I relied upon some well-known authorities on this subject to give clarity on this, and you can see on the second line of my presentation from where I have borrowed this. And basically what I am trying to say is, in e-government the use information and communication technology, that is ICT tools. Basically ICT tools is nothing but internet, emails, video recorders, okay, multimedia. We use ICT tools. Whenever ICT tools is used by the government to improve the delivery of citizens to citizens, businesses and other government agencies, that is whenever the government uses ICT tools to interact with stakeholders outside the government, whether it is another government body or the private sector businesses or the public sector organizations or the citizens, we have e-government. So, essentially whenever there is interaction from the government to another government body, to citizens, to businesses or to other government bodies, you have e-government. Whereas e-governance, we use the same ICT tools, but this is used by the governments for communicating within the organization. Look, it is very much like corporate governance, okay? A set of laws and rules to communicate within the organization. Okay? We focus on administration or management within an organization, whether public or private, and typical examples would be pension calculations and collaborations with other employees or projects. There may be other definitions of e-government and e-governance, but for the purpose of this discourse, okay, I am restricting the usage of the term e-government and e-governance to these definitions. So, this being said, whatever government initiatives which the state or the central government takes for the benefit of the citizens will fall under the definition of e-government. So, in this discussion, whenever I talk about e-government, I am referring to usage of ICT tools by the government for increasing the convenience to citizens. Now, in the second part of the presentation, I take you through the concept of common service centers. Okay. I use the acronym CSC and whenever I use CSC in the presentation, it means common service centers. This concept was floated in 2007, okay, by the National E-Governance Plan by the Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. The basic objective was to digitally empower the society, and since resources both human and money was scarce, we had to rely on private partnership, okay, so that they get their best practices, they get their money and they get their resources into the project. So, the second important concept of the common service center was to have public involvement, and since resources was always an issue, we had to deliver this services, okay, in a very cost effective manner, and that becomes important in a value conscious country like ours. So, the goal of the common service center project was to have 1 lakh common service centers all over the country. Okay. So, we have 6 lakhs and odd villages in our country. So, the idea was you have one common service center for every 6 to 7 villages, and this being the project as a whole. What has happened in Andhra? Okay, a bird's eye shot. It met the initial expectations in rural areas, in AP, at least in our state, because it promoted rural entrepreneurship somewhat, okay, and it also enhanced the capacities of communities through a lot of digital literacy. Why I am saying in a limited way, okay, we will have a look at it slightly later. Even in a successful state like ours, AP, we do have problems with the concept of common service centers. Now, our state was a pioneer to integrate and provide both government to consumer, that is MeSeva, like all kinds of government certificates fall under this G2C certificate, along with other business to customer services, what we call B2C. Okay. So, G2C and B2C was both combined into a common service center, and the Government of India in its vision document said that the rural entrepreneur who is manning and sitting in this common service center, he should earn 65% of the revenues from business to customer, that is B2C, and 35% from G2C. Okay. So, that was the initial idea. So, we made a mix of this and we offered a wide bouquet of services in our common service centers. So, for this integration and for this innovation, we won several awards. Okay. I have just noted a few: the Scotch Order of Merit 2015 award and the CSI Nihilent Appreciation Award 2015 at the national level. So, besides earning so much of laurels, we also had several issues with the common service centers. Now, what was the model? Okay, that is important. The government did not take everything on its own because of resources problems. So, we had a 3-tier model. At the top, okay, in my presentation, I have given in red. Okay, at tier 1, the state designated agency, that is my office, the office of ESD, the Electronic Delivery of Services, or MeSeva, which monitors and implements the whole project in the state. Okay. Our job is to run the project. Our job is to identify private firms through a market mechanism. Basically, we do it through open competitive bidding. And once the private firms are identified to run the project, this forms the second tier. Okay. At the third tier, the service center agencies or the private firms who are sitting in the second tier, they will appoint the village level entrepreneurs to manage the common service center. Now, these common service centers, as I had said, they were originally envisaged to serve 6 to 7 villages in one geographical area, and we had government rules to back up this kind of a vision. That is, we had a population criteria, we had say distance criteria, all that we had, so that the common service centers which come up, they don't eat into each other's revenues through intense competition. I also use the acronym Village Level Entrepreneur, VLE. Okay. The VLE has to invest for internet connectivity, for some office space and stationery, and the service center agency, that is the private sector firms who sit in the second rung, they will host their servers to provide login IDs to the VLE. And since we were planning to have common service center in every nook and corner of the country, okay, the government, that is DITI, Department of Information and Electronics Telecommunication, they offer revenue support also, okay, to the maximum extent of 3,300 rupees per common service center per month. Okay. This is for viability, because in urban areas it is understandable, you can have lot of businesses, but what happens in the rural areas? So, that should not act as a hindrance for the common service center to flourish. So, Government of India came out with a revenue support. So, in 2009-10, we started with the open competitive bidding with these parameters in mind, and many private sector agencies, they said we do not need revenue support for common service centers even in remote areas. But only one private sector agency who was selected, they said we do need it, and we are offering them 2,441 rupees per CSC per month in certain districts of our state. The whole project was formulated as a 3-tier structure, as I had explained, and in a bird's eye view, okay, which the bottom part of my presentation says, these were identified, the service center agencies were identified 2011, 4 in number, okay, and their contract ends in 2017. As of October 2015, we had rolled out around 5,400 common service centers against a national target. The target assigned to us by the government was 2,770, and we offered a wide bouquet of services. Like we offered this B2C services like Aadhaar enrollment, insurance, banking, pensions, ticketing, okay, and government to consumer services. These were more important, because B2C services were offered by several other parallel agencies, but G2C, MeSeva holds the reign. Okay. The birth certificate, death certificates, marriage certificates, trade licenses, okay, it covering a wide gamut of 35 departments. We are offering 329 G2C services as of now. And the project was started with 18.5 crores from the government, and we had used something like 3 to 3.5 crores as of now. Now, the innovation was how we aligned this with MeSeva, just like for providing G2C services. You see, if you look at the background, right from 1990s, we have been using ICT for data processing, okay, and we started with the concept of eSeva in Hyderabad town in way back in 2001. This was for basically to enable the citizens to provide bill payment services in the twin cities of Hyderabad and Secunderabad. The idea was the citizens had to wait indefinitely, okay, and it was not very convenient. So, making it online, okay, it will eliminate some forms of corruption, it will breed in transparency, okay, and so citizens will have some faith in the system. That was the idea. Well, with the eSeva, which was started in 2001, the idea gradually transformed. The government wanted to provide the government certificates within 15 minutes. Okay, that was the target. With this in the target, we started government processes re-engineering at the back end. Okay. So, finally, this service, the entire MeSeva project as we conceived it, okay, it was launched in November 2011 in Chittoor district of our state. Typically, a common service center offers 2 types of services. Okay. Category A services, this is what these services are delivered within 15 minutes in a common service center. Okay. And category B services, which require verification by field officers. I have to explain to you more so that you understand about category B and category A. Suppose I as a parent apply for a birth certificate of my son or a daughter. Okay. I go to internet kiosk and I fill in the statutory forms. I also fill out the statutory fees and I say, please give me a birth certificate for my son and daughter with these details. Now, the first request becomes a category B, because this has to be verified. So, the kiosk operator takes in these details, enters it online and pushes it to the concerned department for verification. In this case, it will be Health and Medical Department of the state. After due verification, the certificates will now be generated and digitally signed by the authorized officer. Once it is digitally signed, all these certificates will be posted online in the state certificate repository, okay, what we call the certificate repository, which will be digitally signed and kept. and once the certificates are ready, a SMS alert will go to the concerned citizen saying that the certificate is ready for download and printing, which is digitally signed at the concerned Mi-Seva center. Now, this is a category B transaction which takes anywhere between 7 to 15 days because of the processes involved. Now, once the certificates are kept online in the repository, it becomes a category A. Say by some misfortune, the certificate, the birth certificate for my son or daughter gets lost or gets tampered or gets damaged. Then I go to the Mi-Seva kiosk center and I say I need a duplicate. Now, in the earlier regime, the duplicate also had to go through the same processes, okay, extending over perhaps several weeks. But now, with a digitally signed certificate at our certificate repository, it becomes a category A transaction. The Mi-Seva kiosk operator simply takes a printout and sends it over to. So, this is the convenience we have generated with our Mi-Seva. Now, the bottom part of my presentation talks about the numbers. Okay. Category A around 43%, category B around 57%. We have 329 services with 35 departments on board, and the total number of transactions we recently crossed 7 crores, okay, which is the highest in the country. And the top 3 departments which utilize, which are having maximum number of Mi-Seva services are the revenue department with 69, agriculture with 35, and the registration department with 17. Now, in this slide, I talk about some aspects on how we were able to give legitimacy to the system. Okay. All the common service centers, they were made to have a uniform facade. They followed the same process models, they followed the same delivery methods. Displaying of citizens charters prominently was again a common factor in all the common service centers. And third, to take care of incentives, okay, for those village level entrepreneurs who adhere to our rules, okay, who record maximum number of transactions, who have lesser form of complaints, they were usually awarded. The most important of them all is the Andhra Pradesh Information Technology Rules 2011, which gives legal sanctity to digitally signed certificates. Without this statute, excuse me, without this statute, imagine a digitally signed certificate which is not accepted by the, say, education department. This could lead to chaos. So, the first thing which the IT department in our state did was to give government legitimacy to digitally signed certificate. The bottom part of my presentation talks about the architecture. Okay. Basically, it is a web based, the Mi-Seva is a web based system which is hosted at the state data center. All the digitally signed records, whether it is from the revenue department, okay, registration department, medical department, they will all be stored in the state certificate repository. Okay. The department officials, they are given a login ID to access the Mi-Seva portal, where they can see the application requests which has been received from the citizen through the kiosk, and they can upload the once after verification, they upload the digitally signed certificate to the repository. Now, all the certificates which are signed in bulk, okay, they will be stored in SCR, the state certificate repository, and they can be retrieved via the unique application number by the village level entrepreneur. So, this is in brief is the architecture which we follow, and yes, this is an important part. What is the economic performance of the project? Okay. All said and done, we have invested, we have called private partners through open competitive bidding. Government of India has given us so much of money, and I omitted to mention, like going back to this slide, category A certificate, the village level entrepreneur charges 25 rupees per transaction. Category B, because there are more processes involved, the village level entrepreneur charges 35 rupees per transaction. So, when I said our total number of transactions is 7 crores, you can imagine the revenues, 7 crores into 25 or 35 as the case may be. So, this in our nutshell is our economic performance. The investment was around 9 crores, and in the brackets I have indicated the private partners. They are not of much relevance, just for name I have indicated it here, and we have made close to 980 crores in the 4.5 years of this project, and our office, the MeSeva office alone, it has benefited by 41 crores till date. Now you see, the 25 rupees or the 35 rupees collected by the village level entrepreneur at the kiosk, it gets shared, okay. That is the ratio I have indicated. The concerned department takes 20 to 28%, okay. That is because they own the data, they also own the government processes, and they generate the service. So, the department, concerned department walks with close to 1/3 of the share. Certificates are printed in high quality paper with logos, dandy marks, okay. So, the stationery cost we charge around 3 to 5%. ESD, that is my office, depending on the service of the department. Remember, we had 3 to 4 private partners, 35 different departments and 320 services. So, with each bunch of service, we have a different sharing ratio, okay, depending on the citizens interface that is involved. So, my share is between 4 and 28%, and the service center agency, since he or she is at the second tier, sitting between me and sitting between the village level entrepreneurs, she walks with 9 to 14% of the share. And finally, the village level entrepreneur, who is the face of MeSeva in the state, she or he gets anywhere between 33 to 47% of the revenue generated, okay. Now, this being the description of our project, including its economic performance. Now, in the next 4 to 5 slides, I would like to elaborate on the issues with the Common Service Center project. The first major problem is digital illiteracy, okay. There are stages in each e-government project, okay. Worldwide we have informational. The bulk of the e-government initiatives fall under this category. You have some static web content, okay, and some downloadable forms. They form around 81% of the project, of the total number of e-government projects. Then transactional in nature, where you can pay fine, okay, check pensions, upload some forms. Around 12% of the e-government initiatives are like that. The one-stop shop, okay, you go to a, or you assess the online a one-stop shop and this one-stop shop offers all services, okay. This is around only, this forms around only 7% of the e-government initiatives in the world. Now, our Common Service Center project 1, it is yet to mature from the transactional stage. We are somewhere between the stage 2 and stage 3 in the Andhra Pradesh. More damaging is, where does our country stand with reference to ICT usage, okay. For that, I have taken data from the International Telecommunication Union, which is a UN body, and they assess the ICT index, what they call the ICT developmental index for all the nations in the world, okay. I won't go into the details, but they have 11 indicators which they have divided into 3 clusters, okay. One is on access, another is on usage, and another is on the human skills. On all these 3 clusters, we rank anywhere between 120 and 130 out of 166 nations, and our overall ranking, okay, in information communication technology usage index is 129 out of 166, okay. So, despite all the hype about information technology in our country, we stand somewhere around 129, much lower than countries like South Africa and Botswana. So, one reason for this could be the large rural illiterate masses, okay, which could skew the ratio towards the lower side, okay. And this is for the country, and we do not have, unfortunately, we do not have state numbers, but still we did some number crunching in MeSeva. So, our analysis of the transactions, okay, we studied these transactions, and if you see, for the period 1st January to 31st December 2015, we took the mandal, okay, a mandal, a geographical unit as our unit. Okay, there are 700 plus mandals in our state. Why we took mandal as a unit is that a mandal is populated by more or less the same distribution of people. Okay, you have young children, newborns, okay, teenagers, college going people, okay, workers and old age citizens. And barring a few tribal mandals, a mandal more or less should have a more or less uniform composition of population, and their demand for the e-transactions should also be hovering around a average. So, that was our upfront expectation, and when we started crunching the numbers, the average number of transactions, okay, for this 1 year period is around 36,660, and nearly 70% of the mandals were below the average, below 36,500, and the maximum number of transactions was around 5 lakhs, okay, for Guntur, Visakhapatnam and Vijayawada being the top 3, and only 30 mandals out of 700 plus they crossed the 1 lakh mark, and the least number of transactions recorded was around just 251 for the entire 1 year period in the East Godavari district, and 10 mandals, okay, they did not even cross the 4,000 mark, of which 6 mandals are in East Godavari, which has the highest functional literacy in the state. So, you see, on the one hand, the district with the highest literacy had the mandals with the lowest number of digital transactions. Secondly, the maximum number of transactions was skewed towards some 6 to 10 mandals, and majority of the mandals in our state, they were much below the average. So, this gives rise to some disturbing questions. First of all, is there awareness in the rural population about MiSeva project is one, and is the number of transactions a good indicator? Look, this happens because there is a present thinking in government that government services, we should not be demanding money from the people for a government service which is legitimately their own. In fact, it should be offered free. So, going with this philosophy, our government has also eliminated certain services in the revenue department, and for creating awareness amongst the rural population, we need digital literacy campaigns with full momentum, and this will be necessarily a interdepartmental project. Okay. So, these are some of the issues, and regarding departmental inadequacy, okay, of the 330 services are offered, around 135 services are high denomination, 70 of course are seasonal in nature, say those relating to education, those relating to applications for going to Mecca, Medina, okay, and the rest of them are recording 0 transactions right from 2011. So, here the problem is, though the e-mode is there for delivering the services, sometimes the department insists on manual certificates, which is not correct. And secondly, there is also a resistance from the department to learn, okay, to digitally enrich themselves. So, how to sensitize the departments in this? We had a parallel program in the IT department where tablets in large numbers, nearly 92,000 I have indicated in my presentation, they have been distributed to mandal level officials, and close to 70,000 have already been trained in tablet usage. This has somewhat improved the usage of ICT in government processes, and for this we have engaged with engineering colleges and their faculty, but so far we have been able to train only around 5,000 people. The numbers pertain to a few months back, 1100, but now we have trained around 5,000, and the response has been lukewarm, because faculty and students, they are also engaged with their own examination processes. Now, we come to another important part of the MiSeva, which is e-Panchayat services. Okay. Since the students, most of the participants, they are from this background. So, I was also requested to include some part on this with a focus on this. Now, Panchayat, as we all know, it is the face of government, and so the state has initiated e-Panchayat to automate the whole Panchayat government processes and offer citizen